All right, so get ready for another deep dive, you guys, because today we are going to be unpacking a creepypasta that was sent in by a listener, Nancy R. And
Okay.
it's a story that takes us back to like 2012, the era of dying video
Yeah,
stores.
yeah.
And so Nancy's at the last Blockbuster in her town,
Okay.
browsing the, almost empty shelves.
Yeah.
And she finds something really strange, just a lone VHS tape
Huh. Interesting.
with a handwritten label that just says, "Please rewind."
Ooh, that's creepy.
I don't know about you, but that's already kind of sending shivers down my spine.
I know VHS tapes, they just have this like spectral quality about them now, you
Right.
know?
Right.
They represent like this time when information was so much more obscure and less readily available.
Yeah, it's true.
So you stumble across this piece of lost media with like this kind of sinister history.
Yeah.
It's like opening a door to the unknown.
It is, and it's like the very format of the tape adds to the creepiness. Like,
Totally.
why a VHS tape,
Exactly.
But the story doesn't stop there. So Nancy, being the curious soul that she is,
Of course.
decides to take the tape home,
Okay.
digs out her parents' old VHS player,
Ah.
pops the tape in, and that's when things take a really unsettling turn.
Okay, what happens?
So what she sees on the tape is this dimly lit room
Okay.
with a single wooden chair just in the center.
Okay.
But then the chair starts to move,
What?
and it's not like someone's pushing it. It's
Yeah.
more like someone is sitting in it,
Oh,
shifting their weight around.
it's so creepy. The way the chair moves is so crucial here.
Yeah.
It's subtle, it's almost organic,
Right.
which suggests that there's like this presence, this unseen entity just inhabiting this chair.
Right.
It plays on our primal fear of inanimate objects coming to life,
Totally.
and that fear is just like so deeply rooted in our psyche.
Right.
I mean, think about it. We rely on objects to be static and predictable.
Right.
When they behave in unexpected ways, it disrupts our entire sense of like order and control.
Yeah, like our brains are like, whoa, hold on, something's not right.
Exactly.
But okay, so as if the moving chair wasn't enough,
Right.
Nancy starts to hear a whispering voice coming from the static on the tape. And
Oh.
all it says is, rewind it.
Oh my God, that's so creepy.
Oh, right?
It's like that disembodied voice just personalizes the threat.
Yeah.
It makes it clear that something wants that tape to be rewound.
Right?
And it introduces this element of a command,
Right.
an instruction that Nancy feels compelled to obey.
Okay, so like what would you do if you were in Nancy's shoes at this point?
Oh my God. I don't know.
Would you keep watching?
I mean, think about it. Nancy's already in this like vulnerable state.
Right.
She's alone. She's in the dark. She's watching this unsettling footage.
Yeah.
And now there's this voice, this like external force that's seemingly trying to control her actions.
So it's like the story is playing with this idea that our fears can make us susceptible to suggestion,
Totally.
especially when we feel isolated or out of control.
Exactly. And this theme of vulnerability is like totally amplified when Nancy tries to regain a sense of control.
Oh, okay. How so?
She turns off the VCR,
Okay.
but then she notices something even more bizarre. The tape has rewound itself
Wait, what?
back to 0.000000.
The tape rewinds itself.
Yeah.
Okay, now that's straight up creepy. So what do you make of that? Is this pointing to something supernatural, or could there be a rational explanation?
I mean, this is where this story really taps into our anxieties about technology, right?
Okay.
We rely on technology to function in a predictable way.
Right.
And when it malfunctions or like seems to operate with a mind of its own, it can feel deeply unsettling.
Yeah.
We start to question our grasp on reality. Is the technology malfunctioning or is something else at play?
Yeah.
It's like a question that haunts us in the digital age.
It really is. And it's making me think about all those urban legends about cursed video games or haunted websites.
Right.
It's like there's this primal fear that technology can be a conduit for something sinister.
Absolutely. And those fears are often rooted in a lack of understanding.
That's true.
When we
Yeah.
don't fully comprehend how something works,
Right.
it's easier to ascribe it to supernatural forces.
Yeah, totally. So it's like the story is not just about this creepy VHS tape. It's also about our relationship with technology and the anxieties that come with it.
Exactly.
But hold on, there's more to this story, and it involves a chair that seems to mirror the one on the tape.
Oh, no.
And this is where things get really interesting.
So remember that wooden chair in the recording,
Hmm.
the one that seemed to move on its own? Well, Nancy has a similar chair in her basement. And after watching the tape, she finds it moved
What?
to the center of the room facing the TV.
Hold on, the chair in her basement actually moved?
It
Okay, That's taking things to a whole new level of creepy.
Right.
But what does it mean? Is it just a coincidence, or is there something more like sinister going on?
That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think the story leaves it open to interpretation, which is part of its brilliance.
Hmm.
On the one hand, it could be a manifestation of Nancy's fear.
Right.
After watching that footage, her mind might be playing tricks on her.
Oh, okay. So like distorting her perception of reality.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like when you walk through a dark forest at night.
Uh-huh.
Every shadow, every rustle of leaves just seems like a threat.
Yeah.
Our brains are wired to fill in the blanks, especially when we're anxious or afraid.
That makes sense. So it's like our own fears can become like self-fulfilling prophecies.
Totally.
But what if it's not just her imagination?
Right.
What if the tape is actually influencing her reality somehow?
I mean, that's another possibility, and it taps into our deeper anxieties about the boundaries between fiction and reality.
Okay.
We consume stories, we watch movies, we immerse ourselves in these imaginary worlds.
Hey,
But what happens when those worlds start to bleed into our own?
that's true.
It's a fear that's been explored in literature and film for centuries, but it takes on a whole new urgency in the digital age,
Right.
where the lines between the virtual and the real are constantly blurring.
It really is. It's like the story is asking us, like, how much control do we really have over our own perceptions?
Yeah.
Can our fears or even the stories we consume actually shape the reality that we experience? That's deep
It is.
for a creepypasta about a VHS tape.
It is.
But okay, so the story isn't over yet.
Oh, no.
So Nancy, she tries to return the tape to Blockbuster the next day.
Okay.
But guess what? The store is gone.
What?
Closed down, vanished. Poof.
Oh, wow.
It's like it never existed.
So the disappearance of the Blockbuster add like another layer of mystery and unease to the whole thing.
It really does.
I mean, it could be a coincidence, of course, but it also begs the question, is the tape somehow responsible for the store's closure?
Right.
Did something happen to the employees, or is this just a way of further isolating Nancy,
Okay, yeah.
cutting her off from any sense of normalcy or support?
It's interesting that you mentioned isolation because throughout the story, Nancy is completely alone.
Right.
She has no one to turn to, no one to like validate her experiences.
Yeah.
And that sense of isolation just amplifies her fear and makes her even more vulnerable to whatever is happening.
Exactly. Isolation is like a key ingredient in so many horror stories.
Right.
It strips away our support systems, our sense of safety, and it leaves us exposed and vulnerable to whatever lurks in the shadows.
Yeah.
And in Nancy's case, it's not just physical isolation, it's also psychological isolation.
Right.
She can't tell anyone about what she's experiencing because who would believe her?
No one would believe her.
She's trapped in this nightmare with no way out.
So at this point, she's probably freaking out.
Oh, yeah.
She has this creaky tape that's messing with her reality. The store where she found it has vanished and she's all alone. So what does she do?
Well, she does what many of us would probably do in a similar situation. She tries to destroy the tape.
Okay.
She drives to a lake and she throws it in the water,
Mm-hmm.
hoping to just rid herself of this curse once and for all. But as the tape sinks beneath the surface, she hears that whispering voice one last time.
Oh.
Rewind it.
Oh my gosh, that's so creepy. That ending is just chilling.
It is.
It leaves us with so many unanswered questions like, did Nancy escape the curse? Or is it just beginning? What was on that tape? Who made it?
Right.
And why did the voice want her to rewind it?
I know those unanswered questions are what make this story so effective.
Yeah.
It allows our imaginations to run wild,
Yeah.
to fill in the blanks with our own fears and anxieties. We're left to wonder about the fate of Nancy
Yeah.
and perhaps even question our own vulnerability to the unknown.
Yeah.
It's like the story is saying, be careful what you watch. Be careful what you listen to, because you never know what might be lurking just beyond the veil of reality.
It's true. And it's interesting, because this story, while terrifying, is also incredibly simple.
Right.
We have a found object, a mysterious message, and a series of unsettling events. It's like a classic campfire story. But instead of a spooky woods or a haunted house, we have a dying video store and a cursed VHS tape.
There's a reason why these simple horror narratives are so effective.
Yeah.
Why? They tap into our primal fears. Those deep-seated anxieties that are so universal and timeless.
Okay. Like what?
The fear of the unknown, the fear of losing control, the fear of being watched or followed.
Right.
These are fears that resonate with us on such a visceral level, regardless of our cultural background or individual experiences.
It's true. And what I find particularly intriguing is how this story plays with the concept of the cursed object.
Right.
We've seen this trope in countless horror films and stories,
Yeah, totally.
like from haunted dolls to possessed paintings.
Yeah.
So what is it about these everyday objects that are imbued with this supernatural power that just fascinates and terrifies us at the same time?
I think it's the idea that something so ordinary, something so familiar,
Yeah,
can become a vessel for something sinister.
right.
It disrupts our entire sense of order and safety.
Mm-hmm.
The objects that we surround ourselves with, the things that we touch and use every day,
Are
are supposed to be predictable,
right.
harmless.
Yeah,
But when an object becomes cursed, that's like it transforms into a threat,
right.
a reminder that that boundary between the mundane and the supernatural is a lot more permeable than we'd like to believe.
It's true. It's like the story is reminding us that the unknown can lurk anywhere,
Totally.
even in like the most commonplace objects.
Exactly.
And the fact that Nancy found this tape in a dying video store adds another layer to the whole narrative. Video stores themselves are becoming like relics of the past,
Yeah.
They're fading into obscurity.
Totally.
There's a certain nostalgia associated with them, but also a sense of melancholy,
Yeah.
like things lost and forgotten.
Absolutely. And the setting of the story plays such a crucial role in creating that unsettling atmosphere.
Okay, how so?
The dying video store, the almost empty shelves, the
Yeah.
flickering lights.
Yeah.
It all contributes to a sense of unease, this feeling that something is not quite right.
Right.
And that sense of unease makes us so much more receptive to the horror that unfolds.
Yeah, totally. So the story is not just about a cursed VHS tape, but it's also about the places and spaces that hold our memories and our fears,
Right.
and perhaps even like echoes of something beyond our understanding.
Exactly.
But ultimately, what I find most powerful about this story is its ambiguity.
Oh, yeah. I agree.
We never find out what was actually on that tape, who made it,
Right.
or why the voice wanted Nancy to rewind it.
Yeah.
We're just left to ponder those questions, to imagine our own answers.
And that's the beauty of a well-crafted horror story,
Right,
right?
yeah.
It invites us to become active participants in the narrative.
Uh-huh.
It leaves these gaps for our imaginations to fill,
Right.
allowing us to create our own interpretations,
Yeah.
our own personalized nightmares.
Totally.
So in a way, the story doesn't truly end when we finish reading it.
Yeah.
It continues to haunt us, to linger in our minds,
Yeah. Yeah.
prompting us to question what we believe, what we fear, and what might be lurking just beyond the veil of our perception.
That was beautifully said. I think this deep dive into Nancy's creepypasta has been such a fascinating exploration of fear technology and the enduring power of storytelling.
I agree.
We've uncovered the psychological underpinnings of the story, analyzed its symbolism and themes, and we've even considered the broader context of urban legends.
Totally.
And, like the human fascination with the unknown.
Exactly. It's been a pleasure delving into this chilling narrative with you and with our listeners.
And to you, our listener, we leave you with this final thought. If you stumbled upon a mysterious VHS tape labeled "Please Rewind," would you dare to press play?